Okay, I have the Dax-Hub A9S. It's a smartwatch. There are two here, a white one and a black one. They are exactly the same model from the same people. Just one has a white band, one has a black band. There is also a green band version. You can't replace the bands, so make sure you pick the colour band you want to begin with. They are attached permanently to the device. However, this isn't a 260 or £300 Apple Watch. This has a similar style case, but it is around about £45 in the UK. I'll put the price up in US dollars on the screen as a text overlay along this video on YouTube, and it should be on the Amazon one as well. I will show it to you a bit better, the straps and the case and the side of the case, the bottom of the case, etc. Just I have a broken tripod. I should be getting a new one late next week, so my review should get a lot better. At the moment, I haven't got the new video tripod. I've got a photography tripod which is broken, so I'm having to make do with the best camera angles I can possibly get, which isn't very much. Very bad camera angles right now, but I'll do what I can. On the left you have the white model, on the right you have the black, of course. Basically the only difference is the colour band, and there is a green band. Not detachable. It has both have a silver metal shell. With some models of watches you get that are mimicking the kind of Apple look, the black band will have a kind of space grey shell, but with these it's the same shell, just different colour bands. They're all silver, just different band colours. I'll tell you about the specs, and then I'll turn it on and show you the menu and what's there, etc., and then give you my final thoughts. You can, unlike the Apple Watch, with these you can actually put in a micro SIM card. You can put in a little SIM card and use it just as a phone, so you don't actually need to take your phone with you. You can just have your watch with you as long as you have a SIM card in it and make phone calls using this watch without your phone with you at all, which is quite handy. But it will pair with either an iPhone using iOS or an Android phone, and then you can pair your contacts and synchronize your phone book. You can also use a remote camera. Now I have to point out that most smartwatches you get, especially budget ones, only will synchronize with Android. This will to some extent synchronize with the iPhone and iOS, except the remote camera function doesn't work with iOS, only Android. And that's the way that most of them are. Most that do say works with both Android and iOS, the camera function, the remote camera option, won't work on iOS. It's normally the more expensive ones, such as the BS19, which I'm reviewing soon, that will have all the functions on iOS. There is no SD card slot in this, unlike some models such as DZ09, which I reviewed previously, which is a cut down, more cheaper smartwatch. That one does have both a SIM and an SD card slot. This doesn't. However, it has 8 gigabytes built in, so you should be able to make do with that. There is 8 gigs, which is a decent amount built in for taking a few photos, etc. Its screen is a TFT 1.54 inch screen. It's one of the bigger sizes. Some you get are about 1.2. The Apple Watch comes in two sizes. The official, proper, expensive Apple Watch comes in two sizes. I think they call it a 32mm. I can't remember how it's described. I think it's like a 32mm and a 42mm, something like that. And basically, the standard smaller size is about 1.2 inch screen size, and then the bigger size Apple Watch is about 1.54. So this has a screen size equal with the larger size Apple Watch, which is quite good. It is 2.5D multi-touch. It has a camera, which is 2 megapixel camera that can take stills or videos, which is really good. The camera on the DZ09 I reviewed previously only takes 0.3 megapixels. This one is very different. It's 2.0 megapixels and will do still images or video. Its CPU, however, seems to be identical to the cheaper watch I reviewed before. The one I reviewed before had a MTK 6260A, so does this. This is 533 megahertz speed, its processor, and I don't know what the other one is, so it's possible this is a faster speed, but still the model, whatever the case, is the same model, a 6260A. It has a 450 mAh battery. It has a standby time of up to 180 hours. So standby time means if you're not using Bluetooth and you're not using phone calling with a SIM, etc., if you're just using this pretty much as a digital watch, you can get a battery life of about 180 hours before you have to charge it. A cable is included. One thing I have to note is I thought these watches, like this one and the other model, used a regular micro USB cable. They don't, they just look like it. It's a similar size end, similar shape, but it's slightly longer. So don't try and use a micro USB cable with this. Use the cable that came in the box. It's not actually a micro cable, no matter what it looks like. If you look closely and compare it with a proper micro USB cable, it is its own end. It's not a micro cable. Like I've mentioned, it has 8 gigs built in. It uses Bluetooth 4.0. The watch I reviewed previously, the cheaper watch, the DZ-09, only has Bluetooth 3.0. So this is the newer 4.0, which should help with battery life as well. Its dimensions are 15 by 43 by 265 millimeters. Now, if you're going to use this with your iPhone, there's something I need to point out. You can't get the app like with some other devices from the iOS App Store. You have to scan the QR code on the device, then hit download in your web browser. It will download it to your home screen. And therefore, because it's done that way, and it's not via the App Store, it's not trusted by Apple. They don't know. It could be malware, it could be spyware. So just in case, they don't allow you to open it initially. I'll put this information I'm about to tell you in the description along with this video on YouTube. Basically, you go to your settings on the iPhone, then you go to General tab, across to a thing that says Device Management. Now, there's probably only going to be one company listed, which is going to be this. This is after you've installed the program. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put it in the description. And you click that company name and hit Trust. And once you've done that and allowed it, then when you go to run the app, it will allow you to run it that time once you've told them you trust it. So if the program doesn't seem to run for you at first, that might be the issue. Okay, here, if you're actually wearing this, and the right side would be the top, you have there a button which is a select button, and also your power on and power off button. Then to the bottom you have what looks like the digital crown on a regular Apple Watch. This doesn't turn, it doesn't press, it's actually the camera. The camera is facing to the right side of the watch. So if we're looking at it like this, the camera is in the dial here that doesn't turn, then the power on button up here. Then on the left side is a little slip. You pull this tab out here, and that's where you put in the SIM card and the power cable to charge it. There you go, you see you pull out that little tab. From this angle how I'm holding it, it's on the left side is where you plug in the power cable. An interesting thing about that is when you do that, you can use it as mass storage. You select that and hit OK on the screen. Then if you have this plugged into a computer, you can actually drag across audio files to use as ringtones or image files to use as custom wallpapers and clock faces, which is really handy. Not all watches, even more expensive ones, allow you to do that. That's really cool. However, the image file will have to be quite small file size, about like say 10K or whatever. So you might have to export it in an image editor, a smaller file size to make it work. But it is doable and it's really handy. So you can use your own wallpaper and ringtones. Then on the right there is a SIM card slot. Uses micro SIM cards. Now on the bottom here, we have sensors. It looks just like the bottom of a real Apple Watch. Except I don't know what sensors the real Apple Watch has on the bottom, but this has a heart rate sensor, just like the Apple Watch. Plus this has a blood pressure magnet that you can turn on or off in settings. This will help to lower your blood pressure if you have high blood pressure. It helps, I think, with the flow of blood. And other devices do have magnets for blood pressure, just not many, so that's a pretty cool feature. I'm not sure how well you can see this, I'm working with a broken tripod, but as you can see it uses a regular buckle regular buckle strap, not the type that the actual Apple Watch uses, like some other similar designed watches use. Some do try to mimic the strap of an Apple Watch completely, but this does use a regular buckle strap. Okay, I hope this is viewable well enough for you. The trouble is, like I've mentioned, I'm using broken tripods. I have this at a very weird angle, kind of hanging down off of a table sort of ledge thing here, very odd. Plus, because of the way I have to have the camera really close and stuff, when the screen comes on, it detects the light weird and makes the rest of the image dark, but as long as you can see the screen, that's the main thing. Now, like I said, the top button is your on and off button, and your select button, and your home button to go back to the home screen. Like a lot of watches, smart watches have, both more expensive and cheaper. This doesn't have anything fancy like a G sensor, so you can't just raise up your arm like a real Apple Watch and it turns the screen automatically on without pressing it. You will have to press a button to turn it on. But that's only to be expected really at a watch at this price. But just to let you know, to make sure you're aware of that. The digital crown is not a real digital crown, it is actually where the camera is. So let's turn this on. I hope you can see this well enough, it's going to be a bit awkward. Now, to save battery life, the screen does turn off pretty quickly, but you can change how often that turns off. By default, you have this background, it's kind of like a flower. I hope it shows up on camera. It looks very dark from the little 3-inch display I got on my camera, but it's kind of like a petal effect. I think there is a wallpaper like that on the real Apple Watch. You only have 2 clock faces, either analog or digital, but you can customize this a little bit by maybe selecting, oh yeah, if you swipe upwards, you get to the phone number bit to dial a phone number if you have a SIM card in, or if you scroll up, you can select a different back and forth between the analog and digital. Now you could select this analog face and then select custom wallpaper, or you can take a photo with the camera and use that as the wallpaper behind the clock face, which is pretty good. Or like I mentioned earlier, you can drag and drop an image file from your computer if you plug it in via its cable to the computer, and drag and drop custom images, use as wallpaper there to customize it. So there is only 2 clock faces, but you can customize the background. Then up the top right is your battery icon. It will show how full it is, and if it's charging, it will animate back and forth of the battery filling and unfilling, and then it will go solid once it's full. Then you have SMS messaging if you have a SIM card in. You have your audio player here. You have your dialer to dial a phone call, although like I mentioned, you can swipe up or down or whatever on the main screen. Address book if you have a SIM in. Image viewer, settings. Now from settings we can get to watch settings. Set your time and date, or you can synchronize it with your phone. Schedule to turn this device on and off at certain times. Different language settings, so if you're in another country, there is not just English, there's French, Spanish, Portuguese, loads of languages there. Writing language, display. Now under display, this is where you can set a wallpaper for either the lock screen or the home screen. The home screen is basically where it'd be behind the clock face. Then you have a screen auto lock, so you can have it auto lock every so many seconds. By default this is off, but I leave it off as well. Idle display. Do you want the idle display to be analog or digital? And if we go back, we have core settings next. Then you just have advanced, and you've got a few options there. I'm not going to go into too much depth here. Security settings, we can set up some security. So we have this actually auto lock instead of just go off normally. So then when you turn it on, you have to put in a password, a bit like on an iPhone or whatever, or on a smartphone. So you can set up a password for it, but I don't really think that's particularly necessary, but it's a nice feature to have. Profiles, we have general, silent, meeting or outdoor. I would normally just leave it on general and maybe go to options and customize, because here you can have alert type, ring only, vibrate only, or ring and vibrate. I'd normally have it on that one. There's a few other settings here, such as ringtones. You probably can't really hear it, but you do get a preview. Then we can select like number 2 and then click on it again to hear the preview of that one. Then there's about, let's see, there is 5, plus if you have transferred one over from your computer, you can select from file and actually select a custom file, which is really cool because I have a more expensive watch called the BS19 I'm going to review soon, and that you can't use custom wallpaper, faces or ringtones. You can select ringtone volume from here. There's lots of options there, including the keypad sound for when you're pressing buttons. Then the SIM toolkit. Unfortunately, I don't have a micro SIM to show you that. Then you have calendar settings, a recorder settings, BT dialer settings, Bluetooth settings here to turn Bluetooth on or off and the visibility on and off, which you might need to do if you're pairing this, well, you will need to do if you're pairing this with an Android, etc. iOS push notifications, how do you want it to work? Various settings there. World clock. Now stopwatch, interestingly, it has a stopwatch, but it's under the settings. It's not on the main screen, so if you want to use your stopwatch, you go to settings tab, then scroll down to stopwatch. There's a QR code here for Android or iOS. If you select the one you want, so say you want Android, there you go, you scan that into your Android and download the software, or you select the other one for iOS. Then lastly, you have restore the default settings, which I'm not going to do. Then once we go back across next, we have alarms. You can set an alarm to go off at a certain time. Then this is neat. This you don't see in many other programs. In fact, I haven't seen it on another watch, even more expensive ones. You turn this on, and in fact it is already on at the moment. And we can turn it off. There's nothing to set here. You just turn it on or off, and basically every so often, I think it's probably every 20 minutes, every half an hour, it will actually vibrate and remind you and say, time to have a drink. Now that might sound ridiculous to some people, but not necessarily. Now I personally drink a lot of water regularly, which is good. But some people, including, for example, my brother, rarely drinks. He'll just go for hours and hours without drinking, which is really bad for you. He doesn't seem to really, I guess he doesn't really get thirsty and need it. So this is good. You turn this on, then every so often it will ring and vibrate and say, time to have a drink. So this, for somebody like my brother who doesn't drink often enough, this is actually very, very cool, handy feature. One I don't particularly need because I drink enough, but a lot of people just don't drink enough, and it's really bad for you, especially in the long term, if not the short term. So I would recommend turning that on. Really neat, really handy. I wish more brands used that. Then we have WeChat. I can't show you that, but it's a chatting application which is on smartphones such as iPhone. Yeah, it's on this phone, but you need a SIM card in. Sleep alert. Now this is not very useful because the trouble is the screen's probably going to go off in a minute. But as you can see, it says the current time and then sleep time, 11 PM, and it doesn't seem like there's a way to change that. So if you're a person who goes to bed late because they forget and stuff and they get distracted by video games or movies or whatever, this is handy. So you can turn it on and it will say, right, time to rest, time to go to bed. But what if you're not a person that wants to go to bed at 11 PM every night? What if somebody wants to go later, like 12 PM, or earlier, like 10 PM? I can't find a way to change it. You can't seem to adjust the sleep time. It seems to be at 2300 no matter what. So if you always want to go to bed at 11, this is a handy little feature to help make sure you don't get too distracted by other things such as movies and you go to bed at a decent time. However, if you don't want to go to bed at 11, if you want to have this set to say 12, you can't do it as far as I can tell. QQ, I haven't used that, it will need the SIM, but basically that is a chatting sort of protocol for chatting with people via text sort of things. Calculator here, that's very useful. I think they should have the stopwatch on the home screen as well. View your core logs. I can't even say that word, and a lot of people in reviews for other watches can't, I've noticed. Basically, it's to remind you to move and get up so you don't sit down too much. So if you are prone to sitting down for hours and hours and hours, which of course isn't good for you, you can turn this on, have it vibrate or just ring, or vibrate and ring, and you can set the time such as 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. So it will remind you every 60 minutes or whatever you have it set to get up, maybe have a stretch, maybe just go walk outside to the garden or go make a coffee or whatever, just to get you moving. So it's basically a stationary reminder. You know, don't stay stationary too long, keep moving. That can be very useful. I think that's a cool feature. A lot of watches have that. Heart rate, it will say, please make sure it's snapped to the skin, you know, so you can't just sort of hold this on your skin. You do need to be wearing it. And both for the heart rate and the pedometer, you can actually go to options on the screen and view your previous stats, such as your previous steps in pedometer or your previous heart rate in this, which is pretty cool. Basically, when you're wearing it, you just hit start, hold still for a minute. It will say monitoring. Then it will give you your BMP, your heart rate of like 70, 80, 72, 75, whatever. Normal rate is, I think, between 60 and 120. Then, of course, under options, you can see your previous heart rates from the last times you've done it, because it does have a little bit of storage in this, which is really good because not all watches have a heart rate monitor. Even some more expensive. I'm reviewing one for about £70 soon, this is about £45, and that one is nice, but it doesn't have a heart rate monitor, which is a pity. This one actually has a heart rate monitor like the Apple Watch does. It seems to be fairly accurate, so it's really, really good feature to have. Then you have BT Notifier, which is to do with Bluetooth notifications from your device, such as your Android or iOS phone. You have QR code, which is just to scan the software get to the software on your Android or iOS quickly. Blood pressure fat. Now let's just click this one. Now, blood pressure fat misleads a lot of people. A lot of people get confused by this. They think that this is a blood pressure monitor, like there's a heart rate monitor. No, I don't think I've even seen a watch with a blood pressure monitor as such. This actually is just where you turn on and off that blood pressure magnet I told you about earlier. Earlier I mentioned this as a blood pressure magnet to help with blood flow and reducing your blood pressure, especially if you have high blood pressure. This is where you can turn it on, then go back off this menu, leave it on for a while if you want, and then go back to it, turn it off, or just turn it on for a few seconds, turn it off here. So this is where you turn on and off your blood pressure magnet. I don't know why they've called it blood pressure fat. I don't know why it's called that. It should be called like blood pressure magnet or blood magnet or just magnet or something. But that is where you do that from. It does not have blood pressure monitoring. It has a heart rate monitor and a pedometer to calculate your steps and your amount of calories you've perhaps burnt. But it doesn't have a blood pressure monitor, and I'm not sure that many watches do. Normally they have a heart rate monitor if they have anything like that at all, but not blood pressure. So that's what that is for people who are wondering. That is where you turn on your magnet. That's purely what that is. Then you have BT Connect, which is to do with connecting Bluetooth. Again, let's just click that just so you can see. That's where you can turn Bluetooth on or off and the visibility on and off and things like that, and actually give it a name. In fact, we can go down and give it a name instead of the default, which is some kind of Chinese name beginning with S. You can call it, say, Jack or Tom's A9S or whatever you want to give it. You can give it a unique Bluetooth name. Then we have File Manager, which is to look at any files you have stored on this device, such as any photos you've taken, etc. Camcorder is not just a camcorder. It's the wrong word I would use for it. I think most devices will call this just camera, because it is both. It is a camera and camcorder. Most people might be a little misled by this, and they might think, okay, this is just the camcorder for taking videos. Where's the other option for the camera? Well, you click on this. Let me just do it. Okay, the camera is in the fake digital crown, and by default this is actually not on camcorder mode like the icon says. It's actually on still camera mode. So we aim this at where we want to take a picture. At the moment it's aimed this way, and then we can hit the center button here, which will take a still image and store it on your device. we can then go back, which will just go back to the main menu, or we can hit this, which is meant to be like a little crank icon, I think. And here we've got lots of settings. I'm not going to go through them all, but by default it's on the EV menu, which is just exposure. There's settings for white balance, and it's on auto by default. There's other settings, but if you want to record video, you go to this menu, but then go to the next tab, which is got two options. It says switch to photo album, which is just where you can view pictures you've already taken, or you can hit the video recorder mode, which means that if we do that, it's now ready to record a video instead of a still image. So now if we press that center button, it will start recording instead of taking a still image. Hit back. And lastly in the list we have Pedometer. Now this is quite good. A lot of devices have this, but this does it better than some of the cheaper ones. This has, basically when you first put it on, like say you first put it on in the morning, go to the pedometer, hit start, and then you can always back up to main menu, but it will still be going. It sort of multitasks. It will allow you to keep that on, viewing the normal clock, etc. So you can leave it going in the background, and it will calculate your steps, the distance you've walked. I think it's miles. No, it'd be meters, I'm sure. And the MS, I'm not sure what that is. Then calorie count for how many calories it thinks that you would have burnt off by doing that walk-in, which is really neat because a lot of the cheaper watches do have a pedometer, but it only shows you the steps. The cheaper ones don't show you how far it thinks you've walked and how many calories it thinks you might have burnt. Now, I don't know how accurate that calorie sort of count is because some of the more expensive watches, such as the one for £70 I'm going to review soon, that has three options that this doesn't have, even though this is really good. It has the option to put in your height and your option to put in your weight. So by putting in your height and weight, it can judge more accurately how many calories it thinks you've burnt, etc. Because it can be a bit more accurate by knowing how much you weigh, how much you might burn off less, you might burn off more, depending upon what weight you are and height. So that's really, really good. This doesn't have that, unfortunately. Not all do. So I just like to stress that this is a really, really good pedometer. You can see the distance you walked, how many steps, and how many calories it thinks you burnt off. And let me just show you, you can view previous sessions. So it'll show you the other days you've done it and how many steps, etc. you got on that day. So it does keep a history, a log of your previous pedometer sessions, which is really good. Cheaper watches with pedometers don't store a log. This will actually store a log as well as allowing all these other stats. It just doesn't have any goals. You can't say, okay, I want to do 4,000 steps a day, and then it will alert you when you've done that many, or give you a percentage saying you've done 10%, 20%. This doesn't do that. So it is missing the option of putting your height, weight, and any goal you want for that day. But still, this has a lot more to it than cheaper watches. This does have your distance and calorie count and log, which a lot of other devices don't have. So this is a really good pedometer. I just wish you could put in your height and weight to make it more accurate. Then we can hit back. Now if we're all the way over to the far right here, we can keep scrolling left to get back to the clock, or we can use a shortcut, which is just clicking the button at the top button end, and it goes straight back, which is a nice little shortcut. We can also press that once to turn it back off if we are ready to turn it back off to standby. And then this doesn't have a G sensor, so you can't just lift this up and see the time automatically without pressing it. You do have to press that button. So you lift it up and just hit the button once and it comes on. Then it will go off by itself automatically after a few seconds or a minute, however long you've set. Okay, a nice little hidden feature that people might not be aware of. If you hold down, just press down and hold down for a second, there you go. You see it's turned into more of an Apple Watch style icons. Not exactly the same, but there's lots of small ones and kind of bubbles instead. And we can scroll across and see the other bubbles, back and forth. And if we don't want this style anymore, we want to go back to the one icon at a time view, we can swipe down and we're back to the single icon view. So there is two menu styles, two interface styles, which is pretty good. So what do I think of this watch? It is actually really, really good, because there are lots of watches like this in that kind of price range, but this one's pretty full featured. You have a 2 megapixel camera. The only thing I think they missed a little trick with that is it's to take still pictures. So you aim it out across or whatever and take a picture of, say, somebody. If they had that on the top front facing the same direction as camera above the screen, like another watch I'm getting to review does, you could actually use it for video chatting. So you won't have to get out your phone to, say, Skype or whatever. You could lift up your wrist and have a video chat. The only thing I will say about that is it's not a hugely missing feature as such, because yeah, that would be so handy. It would almost be like Dick Tracy or whatever. You'd have your video chatting on your phone. But the trouble is, even that other more expensive smartwatch that does cost £70, it does have a camera that's facing the right way, it still doesn't have any video chatting app. So they've really missed a trick with that one, because most of these smartwatches have the camera facing the wrong direction to do video chatting anyway. And the other one I'm going to review soon has it in the right place, right direction, the hardware is in the right place, good quality 2 megapixel camera like this one, but even that has no Skype app, no kind of equivalent to FaceTime. So I think all of these watches are missing a trick there. I think people would really go for that, because people like to do things like Skype and FaceTime on their phones. Well, I think it would be good to have a Skype on your smartwatch, and you could just answer video chats from your watch without getting your phone out and without holding a big phone in your hand, especially since phones are getting bigger. You could just answer it on your wrist. I think that'd be really handy. So yeah, that could be improved. That is a trick that all of these watches seem to be missing. It has a good quality looking shell. The wristband could be a little higher quality, but there's only so much you've got to get for that £45 price range. But it does have a decent quality wristband, but it's not removable. You can't, if anything happens at wristband, you can't replace it, or if you want to swap styles, you can't. But then again, you can't with most watches, smartwatches at this price range. However, it is a decent watch, decent frame, decent wristband. It is really full featured. It works with Android. You can synchronize your contacts, your time, etc., all that with your Android phone. You can with your iOS phone, your iPhone. Just note that not all features may work on iOS, such as a remote camera, which is a bit of a pity, because there are some smartwatches which will let you do the whole package, everything on iOS like you can on Android. So it is a very, very full featured smartwatch at £45. Don't let the design of it looking like a rip-off of an Apple Watch put you off. It is a good watch in its own right. It's a Bluetooth 4.0 watch that can also work standalone with a SIM card as a phone. So if you forget your phone, you can still quickly make calls when you're out. You can even make emergency calls. So that could be quite handy if you're out and you run into trouble and need to dial emergency services, but you forgot your phone. You can, if you have a SIM card in this, you can phone. In fact, I've heard on other watches which use SIM cards that they will work with emergency services without a SIM card installed. So even without a SIM card in this, if you have this out and you forget your phone, you might, I haven't tried it obviously, but you should be able to dial emergency services. So it's a really, really cool watch, very full featured at the price range. There are other watches that actually cost more money with less features and don't have the heart rate monitor, etc. So this is a very, very good smartwatch at the price. So I do recommend it. I recommend you check it out. A link will be in the description along with this video on YouTube. Please like, comment and subscribe, and if you're watching this on Amazon reviews, please hit the helpful button along with this review. That will help me out a lot as well. Thanks.